What's up guys, I'm back with another video. Today we're going to be talking about how to play every spot on Dust 2. This is going to complete my series on CT side, so I'm probably not going to make another guide talking, overview of all the maps on CT side, so if you've watched all of them, congrats, you're at the last video. Dust 2 in CSGO was a very CT-sided map towards the end because they removed the cross spotting from the T's perspective to where you can see the cross with the blocker in mid. Right now on HL TV, it seems like the stats are pretty even, and I'm not too sure if that's because the meta hasn't really been established with all the new things you can do in CS2 compared to CSGO, so we'll see about that. I'm still predicting that the map is going to be pretty CT-sided though, all things considered with the new smoke break mechanics, so but yeah, we'll see how that pans out. Before I get too far into the video, here's a quick word from today's sponsor. Are you tired of getting scammed by Valve cases? Booster.land is the new meta for opening cases. Founded by the guys who started gc.skins, a site with over 5 million users, so you know they're the real deal. Booster.land introduced boosters, a new way to change the outcome of your cases to whatever you want. Your options are anything, like removing a skin from a case, doubling how many items you got from the same case for the same price, and the coolest one, best of 3, where you can choose the best skin out of 3 from 3 different roles for the same price. Booster.land also introduces bases, a new way to get free rewards for opening cases, in a way that no other site does. Booster.land is giving you a free rare booster if you use my code BIRD. That's B-I-R-D, BIRD. You can deposit using all the payment methods you see here or by skins, whichever one you prefer. You'll get upgrades for however much you play, so everybody wins. Remember to use my code BIRD for a free rare booster on Booster.land. Thank you to Booster.land for sponsoring today's video. Okay, so Dust 2 isn't really a map where people struggle with the positions and knowing where to play, but I'll just put some names to faces here before I start. So the first player towards A is called the long anchor or the pit player. Then you have the A site rotator, followed by the opper, and then we have the mid player or the B rotator, and then finally the B anchor. And so that's the order I'm gonna go in this guide. Okay, so on Dust 2, you need to try to abuse whatever spawn you have, especially the spawn towards long and the spawn towards B, okay? Before I talk specifically about the pit player, I just want to mention that no matter what site you play or choose to play, if you have the long spawn and you feel comfortable doing the right thing for your team, like let's say your teammates aren't really taking long properly, you can always just ask your team to play long for this round because you have the spawn. And people will be understanding, they'll let you take it because they don't have the spawn themselves, right? They can't just swap places with you in freeze time, so they'll let you do it most likely. And so the reason that having the spawn is so important is that the timing that the T's get to come out long, and this might change in an update if Valve decides to remove these random spawns from T-spawn, but they haven't yet in competitive play, so T's can spawn right here, right? And so they'll be able to get to long pretty quickly. On average, T's will have a spawn that's more around here, right? More so in the middle, but sometimes T's will have this best spawn. So as the CT side, you have to try to use whatever timing you can to get the best possible chance. And so as the pit player, you really want to have a molly or a smoke, but preferably a molly. And so when I talk about these positions, I'm kind of talking about them in tandem because all these things are very common. A lot of people will know how to play these positions because the map has been out for so long. So I'm assuming that your teammates know how to throw a single flash at the start of the round. I'm going to talk about that when I talk about the A site player and the supporting utility that usually the A site player will throw for the pit player or the opper will throw for the pit player. And so when you're running here, you really want as a CT side to take control of long, because what that does is later in the round, it completely shuts off this part of the map from coming A. So if the other team wants to come A, they're gonna all have to come through cat at the end of the day, right? If you have long control and you kill a lurker here who's trying to split with his team and trying to catch somebody off guard, then the split is much worse and it becomes just a straight cat execute with only the chances that these players coming up cat are going to have mattering in the round versus if they had a long player who's able to, come up here and kill people on the side, they have a better chance of winning. So that means the CTs want to take control of long. And so one of the best ways to take long control, this was the same in CSGO as it is in CS2, nothing's really changed here. As the pit player, you run sideways like this and throw a molly that lands somewhere in here, preferably in the door. So I kind of burgered it. Let's see if I can get it right here. Fuck, you have to practice it. This is how long it's been since I've played. Okay, I finally got it. So as you can see, I don't have that many Dust 2 games yet, so it's not drilled in my head completely how to throw this molly, right? But you want to get a molly that lands in the door, so you can also just kind of throw it like this and run away if you're not feeling like trying too hard. But what you're trying to do is get to pit as soon as possible. And the reason you do that is because once the T's come out long after, like if they rush and throw all these flashes, pit is a very strong angle to play from and hold in angles like this, okay? Not to like fight instantly here, right? You don't want to just like wide swing and die to somebody who's holding you from this kind of angle, right? What you're preventing the T's from doing is swinging and trying to swing out long here. Because if you're in pit and the other team knows this, right? And they want to swing in this area, they have to kill you first. And it's very hard for the T's to come here and try to like solo kill you if you're hiding. Okay, so this is a very good fight for the CTs. It's pretty hard for the T's to like predict where you're gonna be along this line. And so this is a good spot to play from and be ready to fight with your teammates once the flashes end and then start peeking and like throwing nades, like a nade blue box or, you know, just like random like smokes like this into the door and then fighting. And so since you're down here, the T's are gonna have a really rough time taking this fight. So if they wanna also fight you, they have to like jump up on here and try to fight, but see how they're exposed to all these angles like this, right? Like car and everything. Even if your teammate is like playing backside, if someone tries to jump on top of you, it's really easy to kill them. So if you get to pit as a CT, that means the long take has been half successful completely for you, and it's almost over. You just have to clear out these random people who might have come out early. Okay, so since we're keeping it simple and I'm not going to talk about like advanced rotations and gambling and stuff like that, I'm going to assume that the pit player is alive and doesn't have to move from his position. So after the initial round is over and you've cleared all of long and you've taken it, which is the main goal if you try to cross the pit, right? In the early round, that's what you're trying to go for. Now, the only way that the T's can come into long is through these doors, right? There's no other way to get into long. So what you want to do is make it as hard as possible for the T's to try to reapproach and come back into long. Let's say maybe you're the pit player and you come as the second long player, like you didn't have the best spawn, and then your teammate is just kind of like around here. What you can do is throw your molly deep. This molly will completely flush out long doors, right? So the other team is essentially shut out and having to play back like this in a really passive manner. There's no way for them to really like reapproach quickly. So what that lets you do is walk into pit and play from the same position. Typically, as the long player, you'll still have your smoke. So you can very easily just throw a smoke like this into the door, and you can throw multiple lineups for this. There's some lineups out of spawn that people have found. I haven't seen them to be too useful yet, but you want to try to smoke off this doorway because as a T coming out long, it's almost impossible for them to come through the smoke and kill you. If they do come through the smoke and kill you, they got really lucky, or you're kind of like, you know, you're playing you're playing stupid, right? You're doing something that you shouldn't be doing if they're killing you just dry walking through this smoke. Now the way to do it I showed earlier, but you use this pole to block off this window right here, and then you aim kind of right here, and it'll bounce off this roof and it'll go into the door, and you can throw that safe from pit without being exposed to anything. So you know, if you just want to, wow, how did that miss so badly? You want to be sure to aim a bit high so you don't hit this thing. That's why it missed. Okay, and so I never saw this in CSGO specifically. I saw a lot of angles. People played like this to try to counter a walkout. They played like this to try to counter a walkout. Or they like got to this side to counter a walkout, but I saw Magic's doing this recently and I really liked it. What he does is he plays in this angle right here. And if I place a bot down here, so it's a T bot, but it doesn't matter, right? So let's say you're a T coming out long and you clear this corner angle and now you want to go clear pit. If you notice, this angle is almost impossible to clear like this. Like no T is ever going to do this to you, right? This is impossible to do. Because you're so far away from this angle that any of these like random little angles in the back here are just going to destroy you, right? If you try to like jiggle like that, you're just going to get owned as a T. And so this angle is so strong on like this entire line because what most people are going to do is they're going to come out like this and then try to walk peek and clear pit. But as they pre-aim in this wall right here, they're gonna like not be expecting you to be here. So this is gonna be like the world's freest kill for you if you're playing in this general area. Move bot, get the fuck out of my face. What the? Duplicated. Okay, and so the other thing you can consider as the long player is trying to do a jump spot like this. And what this jump spot does is it gives you early info as the long player to if the other team is trying to retake long. Now, this can be very risky. You can also just like jiggle it like this. And do like the silent jiggle here. I'll turn up my sound. You see I'm not making any noise when I'm running like this versus if I like run like that, right? I make noise. I'm doing like a silent jiggle here. And the point of this is to gain information and be able to like smoke back immediately as they're coming in. So this is a bit more risky, and people did it a lot in CSGO. And you can try this play. I've seen pro players do it in these matches that have been happening on HLTV recently. Your mileage may vary though against like low skilled players who run at you with P90. So you might not ever be able to get this play off, but if you can, it's very good. And it kind of goes without saying, but you kind of need to double molly into longhouse here, because if you just single molly and a player, get out of my way, if a player is playing here and he walks up on you, it's actually pretty bad for you, as you're probably not expecting somebody to be in this like close cubby, and you might die in an unexpected way because this guy's so close to you. Versus if he's coming through the door, like walking with his shadow like this, you'll see him, you know, versus like here if he just comes and kills you, you know? So this role is pretty simple. So the last thing I can think of for the A player is to be ready to flash for your teammates at A site if a cat execute comes in. So typically what'll happen is that it won't be like a late long execute. So you can get away with not focusing on this for a few seconds. Like let's say you're playing like from here and an execute comes in, you can jump throw a flash that pops out here in the sky, right? You see where it pops right in here. And so if T's are running up in this area, the flash is going to pop in this general area, right? So they have to look at the flash and they won't be able to dodge it unless they're like way up here. But at this point, they're still going to be focused on fighting your team. So you can throw 2 of these supportive flashes without your team getting flashed by them. And they're even better if you can throw them from like here, because you're in a more safe position to like come back and clear long versus like coming up here and jump throwing, you know, you're kind of in the open. So a lot of times you'll see pro players throwing flashes like this and then re-clearing long and maybe getting a kill on somebody who didn't expect you to be there, right? Okay, so the A site anchor is more of a supporting role, because at the start of the round, you're almost always going to be supporting your teammates at long or boosting somebody cat. You know, you're not really going to be fighting immediately. So I want you to learn all these supporting pieces of utility. There's not that many of them, right? So the most important flash on this map is going to be this long flash right here. And so the easiest way to throw it is you just come into this corner anywhere it's really general. And then I use this plus sign and I aim right here for the flash and just left click throw. And this flash is going to pop to where it gets anyone who peeks corner in the door like this. So this flash will destroy anybody because it's right above this angle, and it gets thrown in a way that if your teammates fight like this, it won't blind them because it's behind them up here. Here, I'll throw it again just so you can see. So you see how this grenade trail ends right here? This isn't going to blind me if I have like an op posted here or something, or if I'm swinging into pit, it's never going to blind me. So this flash is super good. And then another flash you can throw, instead of just throwing 2 flashes like this, you throw one like that, and then you aim kind of anywhere in this general area of the garage door here, and you do a jump throw. And what this flash is going to do is it's not going to blind people in the door, but if people are swinging out long, it's going to blind them more effectively on people who are trying to look at pit, because maybe they won't get blinded by this high flash here, but they're definitely going to get blinded by a flash that pops up in this area trying to look at pit. So this is a good supporting flash for your team to continue fighting along with. Okay, so this is another piece that you can throw if you're like the 3rd player and you're not directly fighting long. It's just to molly doors if your teammate like doesn't have one or something, or if you want to do it safe. So what you do is you just come on this car right here, and it's kind of a general lineup. Pros will throw this really quickly, but you see this notch in the white paint here. You're going to aim towards the left of the white paint, and then as you're walking down, jump throw once you hit the bottom of the car here. And you're going to have to practice this one. This is probably the hardest lineup in the fucking game. Yeah, so it lands like that. So you just have to aim a little bit lower than you think. It's like boom, like that. I use the white as like a marker for where to throw it. And then it gets pretty hard to miss once you practice it a lot. So, you know, if you can hit it 5 times in a row, you're going to hit this every single time. Okay, and so talking about being a supportive player, you want to know how to boost your teammates to go cat quickly. Because a very strong play on CT side is to beat the T's timing and come to this area as soon as possible when the T's don't expect it to have an op posted here. Because generally the T's will like to smoke Xbox. And, you know, this might change in a future meta if, like, people are throwing a smoke that blocks all of door. But if they smoke Xbox, which a lot of noobs will do, you can come here and post on top mid with, like, the op or a rifle or something, and you're completely safe from lower tons, right? They can't see you. Okay, so the noob way of boosting is to come into this corner and just crouch here. So your teammates are going to have to come up to you, crouch jump on your head, then crouch jump again to get up. But the better way of doing it is to be somewhere on this corner of the box here, standing up. And what you'll see is that with this box here, I can just B-hop all the way up immediately and I don't have to even try, you know? I mean, this is much faster than if I had to crouch jump. I guess if I missed the jump, it's not faster. But you see what I'm saying, right? This is going to be much more efficient for your team. They don't have burger movement like me. Boom. Okay, and so most of the time as the A player, you're more of like a rotator who rotates towards mid and plays kind of in this area rather than like in the site. Although your mileage may vary because Goose is an extremely strong spot with a rifle to play from because of flashes like this, which I'll talk about. But a lot of the times you're going to be the second mid player because if the op comes here into CT spawn and your B rifler, you know, you're playing kind of with him and a smoke comes through, it's going to be really hard for the op to justify running through this and trying to go for an op shot and fall back. Usually this will be like a rifle who comes, maybe comes through the smoke, comes to this if the smoke is bad, gets boosted onto this box right here. And if you have an op doing this and you know you're playing in these positions, it's kind of not the best use of the op. A rifle is much more versatile, so you want to have a rifle in these positions. And that's why the opper will generally play more towards sight here or towards this spot, which is called game helper or like car or something, right? So as this player, you really have to be staring at your minimap a lot and seeing where your A teammates are going. Like if your pit player stays long, it's a good thing. And then if your opper is staying towards A site, it's a good thing, or towards long here. But you just have to recognize when your B teammate wants to fight for mid and when he doesn't. Because if he doesn't want to fight for mid, you being here, like, you're not going to be able to get a good trade out of your teammate if he's playing from window, right? But if you're playing on A site and then your teammate is like playing up close mid here, there's a chance for him to die and then you have no way to trade him, right? So you want to be looking at your radar to see where your teammates are to choose where to go as this player. So since this is kind of just like a basics guide, I'm not going to go too in depth on like how the rounds progress on this map because you're just kind of have to play it to find out. But if you play this position, I want you to abuse this flash. This flash was the pound for pound most effective flash in CSGO because you literally can't see the flash coming out through these palm tree leaves. And even if they land in the palm tree leaves, like if you're back here or something and you somehow got them to land in it, it still full blinds the T's. And it's so impossible for the T's to see that this flash is coming. I think if I remember correctly, on average in pro play, this flash had like a 1.5 average enemies flashed every single time it was thrown, which means that half the time it was getting like 2 people blind and the other half the time, you know, it was getting at least a person blind. So yeah, this flash is called the palm flash or the palm tree flash. It's absolutely broken and you should be abusing it as much as possible in all levels. It's just as effective in silver as it is in pro, so definitely be using this flash. All right, so now that overpass is out of the pool, Dust 2 is officially the op's best map. The op is insanely strong on Dust 2 because, I mean, just look at the map, right? Every single angle and sight line and lane is just a completely straight line across the entire map, right? The op just completely dominates on this map, and I won't be surprised if this is like ZywOo's #1 map, op statistics wise, or any of the other oppers. This map is just gonna be like an op farm all the time. And what I've kind of noticed is that oppers in CS2, since there's not many one-ways, they can kind of go without their smoke and play the rounds still just as effectively. And so if your team wants a cross smoke, you should consider throwing a cross smoke for your teammates almost every single round. I'll talk about why you might want to throw the cross smoke when I talk about the B player, but just remember in the back of your head that you want to be throwing the cross smoke if your team asks for it. It's not a no, it's most likely a yes. And like I said, the op just dominates on this map. So a good op fight that you can go for with your team flashing is to just crouch peek here and get a free kill on somebody rushing, or an op trying to crouch peek you. This fight's really hard for the T's because they have to like expect people pushing and be ready to flick, but as a CT, you can just kind of like bang and get a free kill on somebody running out. But generally, you're going to be playing a lot from A site. So this position right here is called Game Helper. I don't really know why. I guess there's like a player called Game Helper who played here a long time ago, but this position is insanely strong to counter cat walk up and cat rushes, like full cat execs and things, because you kind of get this like area to fall back into if your teammate has long, and you can just pick people off that are running into the site. You can also throw very helpful pieces of utility like a molly here that blocks plant, right? And you're going to be playing a lot from this area. Same thing with ramp here. All these angles are pretty strong, even though there's not really anywhere to fall back to besides falling back into like maybe CT spawn somehow, but it's going to be hard. So generally this area is a bit of a death trap. You kind of have to like play angles like this and get kind of lucky that people don't trade you, right? And like hold stuff like that. But again, you have to remember that flashes are going to be coming over even in like low level games. People are just going to like throw random flashes at you. So you just got to remember that like ramp isn't the greatest spot to play in. A really common spot that people like to go to is this one right here. I think I called this Shiro back in CSGO, but I don't really have a great name for it. But this angle is almost a pre-fire angle for T's at this point. So just be ready. People are going to know that this angle exists. It's not really a surprise anymore. So if you're playing this angle, it's kind of like a 50-50. I think this angle's strong if you have a teammate playing here anti-flash, because if he's, imagine this guy's facing the other way. If you're here with the op, right, and your teammate's facing that way, he can immediately swing if the other team is flashing, or if you like shoot, right? He's going to surprise the other team because they're going to be focused on this guy here, and they're not exactly going to be focused on this. You can also have a rifle playing here, even though it's a bit more risky, and you can kind of do the same thing. And then in CSGO, this was like Fallen's favorite angle because it's kind of an off angle compared to this Shiro angle right here. And you're able to drop off and be safe immediately, just like you are in this angle if you get a kill. And it's pretty hard for the T's to expect you to be here. It's kind of like this weird off angle that's hard to jiggle, right? Because if you peek this and then you want to peek like close here, you're kind of just like exposing yourself to this angle right here, which is where the op angle is, right? It's like to the right of this box. So this is a really good angle to just kind of get a free kill from. Like I said in the part for the A rotator, if you can get boosted on the cat and you know that the other team is smoking Xbox, you can go for this fight pretty effectively. So imagine... So Xbox smoke is up, right? You come here, you look at green box if somebody ran down mid, and then you can kind of just keep pushing and then play from like this angle right here. This smoke actually kind of obscures you from green box, so you can kind of like play safe like this and get a kill and try to fall away. But this is a very risky play, so only do this if you have like a read that the other team never likes to run down mid early and they're just kind of playing passive. And they might peek before the smoke pops, right? Trying to catch somebody off guard who's going a little bit too fast up in this area. Okay, so now I'm going to talk about the B rotator. So this position and the opera are kind of the star positions on Dust 2. They're kind of like very high traffic areas. You almost go for every single retake in this position, especially at A site. You're always going to be alive for A site retakes. And this is where I'm going to talk about the cross smoke. So if we think about how Dust 2 works with this brick wall being in the way, right? T's can no longer for free op like this and see all the way in through the door, correct? They can't, this wall blocks them. So what a lot of T's will do is they'll come down here and they'll hold like this, okay? And a detail that people don't seem to understand, which I don't really get, even if you're coming up to here, is that if you post on that angle with the op, a CT can run into lower tunnels without you knowing, okay? And so the T's solution to this is to boost like this, where one player is standing here and then the op is standing like this to where they can see lower tons, okay? So they actually still have a way of doing this. But the thing about CS2 is that smokes are shorter than they are in CSGO, which means that in some angles you can jump spot over them effectively. And this is one of these places where it's kind of strange to see, but I'll show you. So let's say I throw the smoke like this, and I come here as the B anchor because I'm not under any time pressure, and I come and I jump spot over the smoke. It's gonna be really hard for me to show the boosted opper, but you can clearly see that if there was an opper there, you'd be able to see him. And so what this means is that you're gaining information on what the other team likes to do to try to counter you from running into lower tons. Because if you can get into lower tunnels, it's almost like you can kind of do whatever you want, push early and surprise the other team, and it's hard for the T's to do anything about it. And this is why in CSGO this map became CT-sided, because you can make these crazy plays and it pushed the T's back into playing so passively that a lot of rounds were very, very hard to win for the T's. And that's why I think this map will be CT-sided in the coming months, if nothing changes. But so since you jump spotted, and let's say you saw the opper and he's a noob and he's playing like down here with no boost, that means that as the B player, you can run into lower tunnels whenever you want. You can literally knife out like this into lower tunnels. And even like if you have the best spawn, you can just swing people here and have actually a very decent chance at killing the other team, because this fight, they're kind of fully in the open and the timing is going to work out to where most of the time they're going to be like in this area when you peek them, like right here. I should have been more clear when recording this, but what I meant to say is that you can jump spot on like round 3, round 4 when the other team has an op, and on a future round you can just sprint into lower tunnels because you know that's how the other team likes to play. But then that comes with the added benefit of being able to play like surprising angles in lower tons like this, where it's going to be very hard for the T's to walk clear you and, you know, clear this like weird off angle where you're playing like right here. You know, it's going to be kind of awkward for them to kill you. My number one tip as the B rotator is if you can get into lower tons, like even if without the cross smoke you jump across, you see this guy's not boosting, I'm going to sprint it into lower. this is a very solid play. Okay, so this might just be my CSGO habit speaking, but I feel like this play is still be just as impactful in CS2 as it was in CSGO. So what I want you to try is come here to this door and just kind of aim anywhere in the upper middle of it and W throw this smoke that lands in top mid. And so this is going to completely block the T's from having any vision of anything. And then right after you throw this smoke, come here, aim in the sky, and throw a Molotov like this. And what this is going to do is it's going to lock the T's out of mid if they were going to like come and try to come here early. I'm such a moron. The way that this timing works out is that if the T's run like this and come here, by the time they get to around here, the molly is popping if they're like trying to rush. So they're going to have to take like 40 damage running through this molly to fight you. And it puts a lot of pressure on the T's to think that you're going to be running up mid, which is also a valid play on Dust 2. Okay, so now the nades are out of the way. How do we play the rest of the round? Okay, so just like at long doors, in mid, it's very similar to where if you're able to smoke this choke point in mid, it's super hard for the T's to come out and go mid to B and split on you. So if you have your smoke saved and the round is towards like 110, 50 seconds left and you're able to get this smoke off, if this smoke is up, like if the T's throw a smoke that lands here to block mid doors, right? All the angles should be covered, so you can just peek. And you see the smoke being up, you can just like re-smoke it like that. And what I want you to look at on your minimap is it's just as important as the A rotator, where you want to look to where your A rotator is. And if he's playing in CT spawn, you want to try to play with him. So a good way to do that is to play angles like this, where you're jiggling the walkout here onto anybody who's playing and like trying to come into this cubby, so they don't like come here and surprise you. And you're trying to hold a crossfire with your CT teammate. So if he can like come here in a late round and you're able to shut down mid to B like this, it's going to be perfect. You can play angles like this and just like get 3Ks on people swinging you because time is low, or trade your teammate who like comes here, he dies to the doors, and then like you can just come and peek this guy and fall back. If you don't want to fight mid doors and your team is playing like heavy towards A site, like they have all of long, and if your A rotator teammate isn't coming CT to help you, it's really, really good to basically become a second B player. So the B player is most likely going to be playing an angle like this where they're like getting info, maybe they have an op, or they're playing like close here or something and they're holding your tons, or like at the big box here ready to play off of like a flash play or a pop or something. This is a really strong jump spot that you can do as a CT. So you come onto this box and you jump like this to look at mid. And you maybe hold a gun out or you hold a molly out. And you jump spot like this. And this was really common in CSGO, and it's the exact same in CS2. So what you're trying to do is like look at mid to see if a mid split is coming out. And if a B pop comes out, you can just throw your molly like this and have your gun ready, okay? One of the things to think about is if a mid split comes in, the other team goes like 3 mid and 2 B tunnels. These players are going to come before the tunnels players will. Because if the tunnels players come with low numbers and they die, then both of these players on B site can shift their focus towards mid and the round is basically over. So these players are going to come first and you'll see them because you're jump spotting, and you'll be able to react by like mollying here and calling out to your teammates and having time for them to rotate. And then, maybe picking like a good position like this. Or being able to like jump into backside or something, right? Let's say you were doing it with a smoke out and you like smoked this immediately and you came up and you like got to backside here and you were able to hold the mid split from like an angle like this, right? Or even just fight them because now you know that they're coming. Playing as the second B player makes B side almost impossible to go to, which is kind of why T sides almost never go B, because B side should just be like a total shutdown when the T's go. It should be always the CTs winning. And if they're not, it's because the CTs are getting like caught off guard or they're playing with bad guns, stuff like that. Okay, let's talk about everyone's favorite position, the B player. So as the B player, it's very important to have nades to counter a rush. So you're gonna always want to have a molly, a nade, and a smoke, not necessarily a flash. It's hard to use your flash on B site. And so when you come here out of spawn, you can do the same thing as your B teammate and jump spot to see the cross, or you can just run through a smoke. You can just jump across, all that stuff. But what I want you to do is as you come through the door to throw a molly like this and then a nade on top of it. And so what this is going to do is if the other team decides to rush B, the way the timings work out, if they run through this molly, even if they put it out, they're going to get destroyed by your nade. And so then after your nade, you can throw a smoke like this if you don't hear them rushing. Okay, and so if the other team puts out the molly with a smoke, you can literally just play in front of their smoke right here and get a 4K on people running through, right? If you have like an M4, even an A1S, you should be able to just completely destroy like a rifle rush B, a P90 rush B. It should basically never work. That's kind of why that strat is such a meme, because it's such a bad strat. that it only works when the other team is like really, really, really bad. And then obviously if you're against pistols, right, you want to like molly and then nade, and then like you can even like go around a window, and then if they rush B, again, you can just like mop people coming through this smoke here when they put it out. And so the idea at B site is, since it's such kind of like a lonely site most of the time, because a lot of teams won't generally come B, you want to be playing angles to counter a hard lurker. So not like a full execute, you want to always be playing in angles that counter a hard lurker. And these angles are also coincidentally like the strongest angles to play from against the sight hit, so you're going to be fine if you play any of these spots. So big box is a really common one where you're just kind of like jiggling like this and, you know, looking for the guy to walk out tons here. Playing here in sight, there's not really a name for it, but you can play just like this where you're ready to kill this guy in an off angle. You can play behind the car here. This is a super strong angle because it's gonna be hard for me to place a bot to show you here. But if you're playing this angle, you can do it with a friend and you'll see. The other team is gonna have a really hard time of reacting to you being here. Although you're very exposed to flashes like this, so just be warned. You can play angles like this with the A4, and you can see in third person that this gun isn't gonna stick out, right? How can I show you? Like this, I guess? You can see this gun is like nowhere near from sticking out if you have an A4. So you can play completely tucked here with a teammate, most likely spotting from like window. Because obviously the downside of this angle is that the other team can walk out to car and clear you. But if you have a teammate playing like here, there's no risk, right? And you can obviously play like here close. This is also a very surprising angle for T's. If they're coming out, it's hard for them to clear you if you're playing here. When you have a teammate spotting, right? It's going to be almost impossible for them to expect you to be in this angle. Okay, guys, so that wraps it up for this video. This was just the bare basics on CT side. And if you're watching this in the future, a few months from now, I probably have a lot more guides that go into more detail about certain CT positions. So be sure to check those out on my channel. If you like this type of content, consider hitting that subscribe button. It helps me out a lot. And I just post educational content on YouTube. So it's all to help the community out in any way that I can. All right, that's all I have for this video. Peace.